Hello, and here's Ingrid Thompson back with my book, So You Want to Start a Business, the 7-step guide to create, start and grow your own business. Now, episode 70, we started reading chapter 1 and we got to a part way through that. So here we are back with chapter 1, continuing to talk about you. Who are you to start a business? And this section is called, Are Your Personal Finances in Order? So I'm reading from the book. I was heading into the city for a client meeting and I happened to bump into Gail at the train station. I hadn't seen her for a while and I asked how she was going. "Oh, I've been offered a full-time job," she told me. "That's where I'm going now." Gail and I had met about a year earlier at one of our local networking events. She's a copywriter with her own business, so I was curious why she'd accepted a full-time job. "Oh," she said, "I ran out of money. I need the job for cash flow. I'm still working on growing my business at the weekends." Gail is not alone in needing to return to paid employment to supplement her business startup. I can think of several others I've met over the years. Jackie, who had a fabulous idea for a specialty wine education. She ended up taking a full-time marketing job when her money ran out, and she now holds her specialty classes on weekends and evenings. There's Kate, who had a fabulous business importing novelty handbags and purses and selling them at the markets. She found a full-time job in a business development manager for a handbag manufacturer, and this actually enables her to enjoy the best of both worlds, her love of handbags and her passion for selling, while also enjoying a steady income. Over the past 10 years, I've met many people with great ideas for creating their own business, who have taken the leap only to find they run out of money before the business really gets going. This is most often when they seek help and find me. So getting your personal finances in order before you start your business is critical. So there's 5 steps that you can take to get your personal finances in order. Get really clear about how much money you need to live, how much you need every day, every week, every month. 2, get real about your debt. Credit cards, short-term loans, student loans, any other amounts you owe to people. What is the total outstanding debt and how much do you have to pay each month to pay back your debts? How much do you have to pay each week? Number 3, add your debt repayment amounts to your annual expenses. This total amount is called your buffer balance. That's what I call it anyway, a buffer balance. Open a separate bank account in your name and refer to it as your buffer balance account. Number 5, most financial experts will suggest you need to have the amount of your total annual expenses in your buffer balance saved and sitting in this separate business bank account. I would agree, so get saving right now. So what this means is that you would actually have enough money in your bank account to keep you going for about a year while you get your business up and running. So a couple of years ago, I was fortunate enough to meet Jane Werwand, the woman who founded Dermalogica with her husband in 1983. She was speaking at a conference that I'd attended, and I found her personal story inspiring. One of the things I remember her saying was that for the first 5 years, they didn't have the time or the money to go clothes or shoe shopping because at first they actually didn't have any spare time. Every minute of every waking hour was spent building and growing their business, and every single penny they had was being invested in the business. Of course, being at a conference made up of entirely women, the no shoe shopping for 5 years comment raised a laugh from most of the audience. However, her point is an important one. They didn't eat out during those 5 years because every penny was going back into the business. Her message was clear. If you're serious about being in business, then you just might need to make some financial sacrifices in order for the business to be successful. Dermalogica remains a privately owned company today. So what this means is they're not owned by a beauty conglomerate, they're not owned by a holding company or by financiers. They take pride in being true pioneers in their industry, and they are driven by education and research. Launching the school that became the first International Dermal Institute, IDI, in Marina del Rey in 1983, they went on 2 years later to start developing products that were free of the common irritants and could be used for sensitive and problem skin. The business is now based in a 145 square foot corporate headquarters in Los Angeles. The products are sold in more than 80 countries. There are more than 100,000 trained skin therapists around the globe. It's a pretty inspiring case study. So let's take a closer look at the process that you could take to get your personal finances in order. So the first is to get really clear about how much it costs you to live. So I suggest you track your spending for a whole month. every single cent. This will give you a good idea of how much money you need to live. Each and every client I have ever worked with who has completed this has been astounded by where their money actually goes and where they spend the most money. I remember years ago a client saying to me, "You know what, Ingrid? It's not the Italian shoes and the silk blouses that blow my budgets. It's the magazines, the chocolate bars, and the coffees." At the same time, get out all your bills and your bank statements and your credit card statements and identify all your annual expenses. How much have you spent on each item over the past 12 months? While these expenses will be different for each person, there are some basics across a few common categories. And in my book, I have a list, so I shall read that list to you now. Here's a starting list, but you can add additional categories or change them around. So when it comes to housing, you have rent, mortgage, electricity, gas, water, rates, insurance, telephone, internet, repairs and maintenance, maybe a cleaner or a gardener. When it comes to transport, there's petrol, road tolls, car registration, insurance, maybe your weekly or your monthly travel ticket. There's maintenance on whatever sort of vehicle you have. There's storage and parking. Then there's the basic living expenses, your food, and so therefore your groceries, and the food for your coffees and your eating out, and then any cleaning items that you might have. There's your exercise, your gym membership, your yoga, your personal trainer, any sport, personal care, medical insurance, doctor, dentist, specialists, prescriptions, medications, lotions and potions, makeup, nails, hairdresser, massage. Phenomenal how much money we can spend on personal care over a period of time. If you have pets, there'll be related costs to them, vet expenses, food, vaccinations, flea treatments, beauty parlour. If you have children, there's food, clothing, shoes, childcare, education, books, uniforms, sporting equipment, sporting lessons, gadgets, toys, medical, dental, tuck shop, pocket money, musical instruments, gifts for other children for all those birthday parties, gifts for teachers. And then there's all the other living expenses. So socialising, how much do you spend on dinner with friends, on drinks nights? What other memberships do you have? Interest groups, subscriptions to online magazines, to other online subscriptions. How much do you spend on clothes and shoes for yourself and other family members? What about gifts and presents for birthdays, for families, for Christmas, weddings, babies? What other sort of entertainment expenses for theatre, for concerts, for Stan, Netflix, Foxtel, other sporting events? What about holidays? Big holidays, weekends, day trips. What about books, magazines, ebooks, Kindle? What other gadgets? Maybe stationery. So many things that you can spend money on. And it's really quite phenomenal when you add up over a year just how much you actually spend. And sometimes taking a good hard look at that can actually help you see how much money you actually need for a year. And so therefore, how much money does this business need to generate in order to pay you what you need to live? When you look at your monthly spending tracker and your overall analysis of annual cost, this will allow you to calculate how much money you need to live for a year, which you can break down into per month and per week. It may also help you realize where you could reduce your spending. Okay, so number 2 is about getting real with your debt. What is the total of your outstanding debt and how much do you have to pay each month or each week? How quickly can you get your debts paid down? When you reduce debt, you improve cash flow. When you reduce credit card debt, you reduce the amount of interest you're paying. I had a client who paid so much interest in 1 year on her credit card that it would have paid for a first-class airfare to New York and a 2-week holiday. It really is a no-brainer to stop paying credit card interest. Make it a priority to pay down any outstanding debts, especially where the interest rates are particularly high. Number 3, add your calculated debt payments amount to the calculated annual expenses. This total amount is called your buffer balance, and I mentioned that earlier in the chapter, and it tells you the amount of money that you will need to spend in a 12-month period. You need to know this because if your business makes no money for that first year, it's important that you can afford to live for that first 12 months while you're building your business income. The buffer balance allows you to eat and have somewhere to sleep. And just as an aside, I know some people who actually end up moving home to their parents' house so that they don't have a whole lot of the business expenses, the living expenses, so as they build their business. The truth is that many businesses make little or no money in that first year, and even into the second and third years as well. One of the most debilitating aspects of being in business is worrying where your income will come from. I've met many business people who do not sleep at night because they're worried about how they're going to pay their bills. And it's even more difficult to run a business when you're sleep deprived. If your business does start to generate enough income to make a profit in your early years, you'll most likely be spending that money on additional services to grow your business rather than paying yourself a large salary. I recently met an entrepreneur who paid himself and his wife a total of $5,000 a year for the first 2 years that they were in business. All other funds were channeled straight back into growing their business. There is a school of thought that says a business startup will be more motivated to generate business and income if they have no money to fall back on. I'm not sure I agree with this. It certainly wouldn't be true for me. I feel a sense of calm when I have money, and that sense of calm allows me to be my best self and create great products and services for my clients to give them an exceptional client experience. If I were worried about paying my rent, feeding myself and my cats, my family, I wouldn't be able to do what I need to do for my clients. What do you think? Do you believe you might be more motivated by the need to make money in your business? It makes more sense to have a comfortable buffer. This enables you to get started and not find yourself in a position where you have to take a job or restrict your business building to the weekends. The next thing I suggest you do is number 4, open a business buffer account. Most financial experts will suggest you need to have 1 year's expenses saved and sitting in a separate bank account before you start your business. And I would have to say I agree with having a good sum of money set aside. Your buffer balance is the amount I would suggest saving and stashing in a separate account. I firmly believe needs to be completely separate bank account, only to be accessed if and when necessary. If the account requires an extra password or some other deterrent from taking out the funds, this can be beneficial as it can help you think twice about spending that money. There's a number of banking institutions that offer high-interest bank accounts for relatively low fees, even no fees. For people who have a mortgage on their home, another way to sanction these funds would be to hold them in a mortgage offset. It's always best to check with your accountant or financial advisor which might be the best alternative for your individual situation. Number 5, start saving now. Several people have said to me it's impossible to save that much money. I can understand that. For some people it might seem impossible. But here's my thoughts on that matter. There are a few different solutions for people who want to start right away and save as they go along. And I would suggest some combination of the following, depending on your individual situation. Maybe work part-time. Take a part-time job that pays enough to survive on and then use the non-work days to create and build your business. Many people choose this path and it can be a very viable solution. Continue to work full-time. Create and build your business on the weekends and in the evenings. There are people who have managed to make this work for them really well. In fact, some people like their career and want to earn a bit of extra on the side by creating a side hustle. Negotiate some extended leave from work. Some organisations offer half-paid annual leave or long service leave. This can be a solid block of concentrated time to create and build your business in, say, 3 months or 6 months while receiving the income from the job. I've seen some people do this really successfully. Having the time constraint can, in some cases, create greater incentive to focus. Reduce spending on the non-essentials. Take a good hard look at the items and expenses on the lists you created and think about where these could be reduced. This would enable you to save money and save more quickly. I've seen people realize just how much money they spend on what are really non-essential items, and when they cut them out altogether, they manage to pay down debt quickly and start saving. I get it. There are some people who don't want to go through a transition phase. And if you're the same ones who think that saving in advance and starting their own business is impossible, it might be time to face a hard truth. When someone lacks fiscal discipline, the ability to manage your own money, and further lacks the wherewithal, desire, drive or ambition to actually take control of personal finances and save any amount of buffer balance before starting a business, then I seriously question if they truly have what it takes to run a successful business. The reality for some people is that they would be better off reconsidering the idea of creating their own business and stay forever in their job. If someone is unable to create fiscal discipline in their personal life, then I would seriously question their ability to create and run a fiscally responsible and successful business. The stronger your desire to get started, the more imaginative you will be about how to get your personal finances in order. One of my clients cleared out their cupboards and shed sold things on eBay, held a garage sale to raise extra money to fund their business startup. The more passionate you are about minimizing expenses so that you can save more, the more diligent you will be about reducing debt and credit card debt and avoiding necessary items. As a good friend of mine said some years ago, do for 5 years what no one else will do, and you can do for the rest of your life what no one else will be able to do. This echoes finance guru Dave Ramsey, who said, if you live like no one else, later you can live like no one else. So it's time to ask yourself, how much do you really want to build this business of your own? It's time to get your personal finances in order. So there's the sound of the bell. So that is a sound for an activity, and it's the activity for financial fit. Go through each of the 5 steps that we've just talked about and thoroughly address your finances. Ask the hard questions. How much do you really spend? And what could you save if you really got creative about saving? Record your plan to amass your buffer balance. If you're listening and you want some help with this, I do actually have a really basic Excel spreadsheet. If you want to email me, ingrid@healthynumbers.com.au, and ask me for the basic Excel personal finances spreadsheet, I can send that to you. So that's ingrid@healthynumbers.com.au. Okay, so back to the book. Do you have a business mindset? We've looked at the pros and cons of creating your own business. The reason many people give for starting their own business is a desire to be their own boss. Many also want the sense of achievement that goes with creating something from the ground up. And of course, these are admirable reasons, and I can totally relate to both. However, for a business to be a business, it does need to make money. It needs to make a profit. A business that is not making money is actually a hobby. So a great question to ask right now is, am I starting a business, or is this more of a hobby or an interest? When does one become the other? For many people, thinking about getting started in business, it comes from doing something they really enjoy. Being a florist or a photographer, or making cupcakes, or doing Pilates, or doing yoga. Having acupuncture, concentrating on their nutrition, or any one of a whole other host of things. This can result in a sideline business, where you stay in your corporate job or working in another person's business and form your startup in your spare time. At some stage, it might become apparent that the business is actually generating enough money that maybe you could move to part-time work and run your business part-time. Generally, you would be considered to be in business for tax purposes if you enter into an activity with the intention of running it as a profit-making business, and if the activity is carried out in such a way that it shows it has a significant commercial purpose and viability. So what does this mean? Sounds like a whole lot of tax office speak, doesn't it? So in essence, if the intention of running it as a profit-making business means making money so that you can pay yourself and have some money remaining to reinvest in the business. And if there's significant commercial purpose and viability means paying yourself enough money so that you might be able to eventually make your business your full-time income and or employ others to run the business. So developing a business mindset is part of this journey to getting started. It's a way of thinking about the business as a business. A person with a business mindset understands what it means to be in business and approaches their startup with the delicious anticipation and total expectation that their business will generate income and they will maximize profit. The business will make money for them and their shareholders, their partners, their clients, and their team members. This is a good thing. Many of my clients say to me, "Oh, Ingrid, it's not just about the money." And of course, this can be true. However, if there is no money, there is no business. And when there is no money, there's no way to buy the things that you need, like an internet connection and the equipment you need. There is no money to pay suppliers or to pay the rent and so on. When there's no money, you don't sleep at night because you're concerned about where the money's going to come from. Many of the people I have worked with over the years want to help people, and this is indeed a noble desire. I'm in business to help people as well, so I fully understand. However, when you're not making enough money to pay your expenses and have sufficient left over to pay yourself a good wage, then how can you help anyone? It's hard to help anyone if you're sleeping in a car under the bridge. Having a business mindset also means knowing how much everything costs. And I'm not just talking about the physical items you purchase with real money. It includes knowing the cost of your time and your efforts. So a few years ago, I was invited to a breakfast networking meeting where I sat beside a lawyer. Let's call him Lawrence. He was telling me all about how successful his legal practice was. I asked him how he got most of his clients and whether he got many from this particular networking group. "Oh no, not really any from this group," he said, "mostly from word of mouth referrals from my existing clients." I asked him why he continued to attend the breakfast group, and he said, "Well, it doesn't really cost much and they're nice enough people." "How much does it cost you?" I asked Lawrence, and he said, "Oh, breakfast is just $35. Now, I couldn't help thinking, he doesn't really know how much this breakfast costs him. Let's presume he attends 45 of the potential 52 weekly meetings. This allows for holidays, some out-of-town business trips, or other reasons that he may not attend. The total cost of breakfast is $35 per meeting times 45 meetings is $1,575. It turns out there's also an annual membership fee of $1,150. Lawrence drives and parks his car that costs $3.30 an hour times 2 hours equals $6.60 times those 45 weeks is $297. Now, for some of you, these numbers are going to start they're going to start to really annoy you because you're not keeping track of them. But in the book, it's laid out in a table and it's all articulated about how much it costs. We then add the vehicle expense, 7.5 kilometres times 2, 15 kilometres per week at 74 cents, which is the average at the time of printing, the allowance for kilometre. So that's another $499. Unbillable time, so say 2 hours per week at $500 per hour is $1,000 per week at 45 weeks is $45,000. So if we add all of that together, the actual cost of him attending those breakfasts is the vicinity of $48,521. And there's a table in the book. So if you can see the book, you may after listening to the book, you may actually want to get a Kindle copy, jump over to Amazon or wherever you buy your books online, and you can have a look at the table. So the reality is that Lawrence often stays after the meeting and chats. He also arranges individual coffee meetings with the others. Networking is, of course, a critical aspect of any business. And if meeting people one-to-one is a really important part of your business model, then a breakfast networking group like this could very well be worth the financial cost. Lawrence also enjoys the company of the group, and that's an important factor. The question for him is to ask himself, with his business mindset hat on, is it $48,000 worth of value in attending every week of the year? If the answer is yes, then this is a great investment of his time and his financial resources. If the answer is no, then it might be time to look for a different networking group. In contrast to Lawrence, an accountant friend of mine attends a similar meeting, and the lead generation from the people he meets more than 10 times pays the cost of attending. It takes a business mindset to make these calculations and figure out the true cost of activities, whether it's networking, whether it's training, or creating and building relationships with new clients. There's the bell. So that means it's an activity. So this is an activity about building your business mindset. Time to get out your notebook again. This time we're going to calculate the true cost of an activity in a similar way to the breakdown I've done for Lawrence's breakfast networking. Think about an activity that you do on a regular basis. Maybe you go to coffee with a colleague or a departmental meeting. Calculate the costs involved. Consider all of the cost, just as in Lawrence's example. Then truly consider the benefits of attending. Remember, some of the benefits may be intangible. So for Lawrence, he actually enjoys the company of the people at the networking meeting. And for someone who works on his own, maybe it's just nice to spend some time hanging out with other business people. This is a good habit to get into, to be able to complete a calculation such as this sort of costing, because over time, when you're in business, you will be faced with decisions that require a cost-benefit analysis. And this is exactly what you're just doing by completing this activity. And so it's not really super difficult, and there's no real right or wrong. Making sure that your business is going to make money isn't about being greedy. It's about having a business mindset. This is one of the biggest factors when it comes to being successful. If you've decided you've got what it takes, have taken up the challenge to organize your finances, now it's time to go to chapter 2, to the next element. It's time to test your idea.